cancer. What is the significance of the PSA number, and does the PSA number have a role in the rejuvenation of the cells of the body so that cancer may disappear?
PSA, legitimate doctor is going to tell you that we would never, ever, ever, ever look at PSA and tell you have cancer or not. It is outrageous that they started that. When I was at university a long time ago, they said you could have a 5 and it was perfectly normal. So overnight, by moving the numbers down, they created a whole new industry called the prostate cancer industry. If you go to more civilized countries, in Europe as an example, they don't operate on men or do things like Gleason biopsies. I'll explain why in a minute. Why? Because they realize that that generally spreads it to the liver or the hips, and possibly then onto the bone. Number 1 is liver, number 2 is hips, and then eventually bone. But the countries in Europe, they just don't do that. Now, why I said biopsies, this is a very interesting thing. The standard within medicine to diagnose cancer is a biopsy. Since it's become the legal and the educational standard and the practical standard for doctors practicing, they must do that. And a doctor will not, by the way, proceed to do medical treatments without a biopsy. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to do it. I'm telling you what they won't do. Are there ways to diagnose cancer without biopsies? Absolutely. One of the most brilliant men I ever met in my life, Dr. Coyne, a colleague, a friend of mine, showed me, I spent a half a day with him, that if you took a tomography, an MRI, and an ultrasound, you could diagnose better than a biopsy cancer. But will anyone do that? No. It's not legal, it's not standard, and it's not practiced that way. So the doctor's not going to be the first one that stands up and says, hey, I'm doing that. Because you have a legalistic culture that we live in. So doctors aren't really practicing their oath, do no harm. They're practicing, I don't want to harm myself. Totally different than do no harm. Now, when you pop into any cancer, there is a 94-95% chance it will spread the cancer. Not just prostate, any cancer. Gleason does a terrific job because Gleason is the only definitive test we can show whether or not you have cancer. And what I noticed is that when doctors are astute enough to give Gleasons, many, many of the men, bordering on half, that were told they had cancer are now being told they don't. Because they were judging it from what? PSA, not from Gleason. But if you take a Gleason, they usually pop 1 hole, 2 hole, 3 hole, 4. The other day I talked to a man, they had 14 holes they stuck in. You know what that means? That means he has a hailstorm going on in his immune system now. So if you're going medically, you must do biopsies. They will not treat you, rightfully so, without a biopsy. And if you choose to become responsible and heal yourself and not get sicker, you don't need biopsies. Keep going. Anyone else in that row in the very back? Yes.
So can early cancer or late cancer be reversed by lifestyle changes?
Well, tonight I started the conversation with the story of the woman who founded Hippocrates. She had colon cancer, stage 4, that left the colon. It was in her liver, it was in her pancreas, and it was in her bones. That's how the organization was founded. Since then, I would imagine 125 to 150,000 people have come, almost all of them with late-stage cancer. Now, why? People aren't sensible to take responsibility. They don't come to Hippocrates first most of the time. We're the last stop. After you've run out of money, the doctor tells you you're going to die, you can't move, you can't think, you can't feel, you can't talk anymore, your hair's falling out, you're yellow, then you say, okay, I'll do something. So we have dealt with mostly stage 3, stage 4 catastrophic cancers. A big percentage, probably 25% of them, have literally been told they're going to die. And we have seen thousands and thousands of those people recover. So yes, but is it magic? It is hard work. You have to change your mind. You have to radically and permanently change your lifestyle. You have to take, rather than invasive therapies that are going to spread cancer, non-invasive therapies like electromagnetic, like oxygen, some of the things you've seen. Targeted whole food supplements, not chemical supplements that weaken the immune system further. And so We have, again, the longest history on the planet Earth, the highest success rate on the planet Earth of people healing cancer. Why isn't it more renowned? Because you have to do it. We're not going to lie to you like everyone else. We're not going to tell you we have magic and we're going to make you well with a wand. We're going to tell you, you have got to make the changes. If you're willing and ready, we're here to help you. Anyone else in that row? Yes.
Prostate cancer. I have prostate cancer that's diagnosed a year ago. My PSA was 1825. The penultimate test, it was 1.39. I have changed my diet, almost vegan. I have a long way to go with that.
They put you on hormones?
I lost 60 pounds. They started me on Zoladex, which is hormone therapy. At this point, last test my PSA went up from 1.39 to 3.35. I know symptoms in my body are telling me that the staining effect of that is now not working. What are your thoughts?
Hormones never work. It's pretend. It's sort of like pulling a rabbit out of the hat. It feminizes the testosterone, which gives false readings. So you have the same level of cancer. If the cancer is still being fed by sugar, animal foods, lack of oxygen, adrenaline pumping out through fear, it will continue to grow, even if the numbers aren't showing, because you synthetically have lowered them with feminizing the human body of a male. So my thoughts are quite simple. One of the easiest things I've ever seen people get well from is prostate cancer. And you have got to not partially do what it takes. You've got to take this serious. You're a young guy. You're probably about my age. And say, look, I want to live.
Thank you.
I want to live. And basically, I'm going to do everything it possibly takes to live. And we can certainly help you once you're ready to help yourself. Anyone else in that back row? Anyone in the second row? Okay, no one in the second. How about anyone in the third row there? Yes. Okay, we'll come to you next. Ladies first.
I have a couple of questions. Before you were talking about purified water. Are you talking about reverse osmosis or something else?
No, reverse osmosis no longer works. It doesn't take out the pharmaceutical drugs that we didn't really know were there 15 years ago. I used to write 20 years ago about how $6,000 RO units were terrific. Now we realize they do not take out those microscopic little pharmaceuticals that we think many will hang around for 100,000 years. We'll all be very long gone, and they'll still be here. And they mix together. They don't take out the ethyl. That's a gasoline additive that's in all our aquifers. So again, there are two systems that do. The state-of-the-art one is from Japan called organized molecule water systems. Things like
Is that available in Canada?
Yeah, you can get them in Canada too. They even let you buy them here. Again, wellness is one company, living water is another company. Less expensive, but just as effective to remove that would be distilled water. A lot of you have bought propaganda, not truth about distilled water, where people tell you things like distilled water takes minerals out of the body. Do I look like I have bad bones? I've been drinking gallons and gallons of distilled water, thousands, hundreds of thousands of gallons probably, in 38 years. It doesn't remove minerals from the body. And that's why we scientists use it in the laboratories, because all it is pure water, hydrogen and oxygen. Then there's a whole other sham group that walks around talking about how you have to energize and get your water to be living and all of that stuff. So dance with your water. It's a whole lot cheaper to do than anything else. Put it in the window, dance with it, kiss it a few times, whatever it takes. But you can buy alkalizing units too, but please filter it before you use an alkalizer.
Okay, my second question is, before you were talking about the clumping of weak cells,
Right.
were you talking about platelet aggregation?
Well, we're having a major problem with platelet problems today because people have mutated their entire spleen activity from eating non-human foods for generations at this point. And thickening of blood and people being bled is almost as common as a common cold. Last week we had 3 people at Hippocrates that were in that circumstance. So by eating a proper diet long enough, by taking targeted